A digital post office? Is there really such thing? Oh, hey, let's call it email. For electronic mail. I know. You're probably going to say, James, cool it. Cool it. We already know that there's an email, didn't you? Where have you been all these years? Well, technically, first starting off, I did work for an email company for 15 years. So, yes, I do indeed know that there is email and an electronic post office. Probably just not as we think of it today. There are digital post offices indeed. So we'll talk a little bit more on how they actually work and function. We'll talk about MX records, explained simply, and how email finds its destination. Email doesn't just magically know where people are. Systems on the internet need directions. Email uses DNS to locate mail systems, and MX records act like routing instructions. We had talked about DNS a little bit on a previous video, more in regards to internal DNS and how Active Directory works with and integrates with DNS internally. This is public DNS now. This is where systems go outside the network to find records and how to route. The way I think of email is basically like a post office in the real world. While it doesn't go through step per step on how mail gets delivered, it really is kind of like a digital post office in, yes, they both deliver messages. One might be electronically versus letters, but they do kind of go through similar processes. And so we'll kind of break it down and take a look at that. Letters have addresses. They get mailed at post offices. They get sorted at the post office, and then they get delivered to mailboxes. When you start dealing with electronic mail, emails have email addresses, just like letters have addresses. Mail servers process those messages, the same thing as mail at the post office. They go and sort through the messages and everything. DNS helps route the information. You could say the same thing about zip codes on letters. Mailboxes then receive the messages, just like mail would get delivered to just a regular mailbox. Finding the destination mail server, but how? This is where it gets kind of interesting. There's actually two lookups that happen. So the first lookup is, say it's going to mail.com. The MX record for that domain. Okay, so as you can see, there's an MX record, then an A record lookup that happens, and then an SMTP delivery. So you're like, well, James, it does one lookup. Why would it go out and do another lookup? That makes absolutely no sense. Well, yes and no. You would think that delivering messages would only take one lookup, but here's what really happens on the back end. If you were sending a message to sender at domain.com, for example, would then do a lookup and say, what MX record domain.com? The DNS would then return, well, it is mail.domain.com. Okay, so that's the first piece of information. So if you were to go send the message and the server takes that message and then sends it out, now all of a sudden it goes, well, okay, you have mail.domain.com. Where's that? And you're probably thinking, well, we just looked it up. We just found it. Well, what it really needs is an IP address. So it then goes, okay, so I have mail.domain.com. I need this part. Where do I get this part? So it goes and queries and says, okay, I have this. I need this. And then it says, okay, well, here's your IP address. And then once the SMTP server gets that, then it sends the message off and it goes to the next location. So, mail server discovery and delivery flow. What happens when you send an email? Step by step. The user sends an email out. The mail server checks DNS. DNS returns the MX record. Sending server contacts the destination mail server, says, hey, I've got this going on. What's up? And the destination mailbox receives the message. Now, there is one small caveat I wanted to just go back and say. So we did talk about DNS lookups. Underneath MX records really should be a record lookup. It's not there, but that's essentially what's going on behind the curtain. Okay, so we've got the mail part, delivery part taken care of. Okay, so we kind of talked a little bit about how mail gets routed through the internet, where it goes, and how it goes, right? And that sounds great, but now there's one last problem. Okay, well, you're like, James, what else is there? How do you get that message? You send me an email. Thank you very much. And I'm like, okay, this is cool. I never know. How do I get that email? How do I know it's even in my mailbox? Where do I go to pick it up? Decisions. Not quite. So basically, that's where applications come into play. For example, Outlook, Apple Mail, Thunderbird, mobile app clients. So, final thought. The internet really does have digital post offices, which is kind of scary. No, it's really not. It just makes life a lot easier. Certain things you need that's more time consuming. Putting a letter in the mail, you have to, address it, then get a stamp for it, and all that kind of fun stuff. Whereas when I turn on my computer, I log in, I open up Outlook client, and away I go, and in like seconds I download all my messages and everything starts pouring on in, and before you know it, it's just like junk mail. No, that's another topic for another time. But there is a lot of different post offices, if you will, throughout the internet, whether it's hosted or it's an on-prem server. And I've seen on-premise servers from Microsoft Exchange all the way to a Linux-based type system. So, if you liked hopefully you found that kind of interesting, how mail flow goes, and client connectivity. This was just a basic, very quick overview. So I hope you enjoyed this video on what a post office is. Da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da. Okay, well, now I'm getting a little too crazy with that, having a little too much fun with that. But anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe and share, and I'll see you in the next video.